I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel spirals into conflict with Iran and Syria. Thousands gather in Jerusalem to protest Israel's plan to deport African asylum seekers. And it might be time to consider getting a degree in the Holy Land because Israel has just received some impressive new rankings. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. The region is spiraling into conflict in the aftermath of some of the biggest clashes between Israel and enemy forces in decades. The IDF is conducting a full investigation into what exactly caused the crash of an Air Force F-16 fighter jet yesterday. They now believe that shrapnel, likely from a Syrian anti-aircraft missile, is what downed the jet.
I've been warning for some time about the dangers of Iran's military entrenchment in Syria. Iran seeks to use Syrian territory to attack Israel for its professed goal of destroying Israel. This morning, Iran brazenly violated Israel's sovereignty. They dispatched an Iranian drone from Syrian territory into Israel, and this demonstrates that our warnings were 100% correct. Israel holds Iran and its Syrian host responsible for today's aggression. We will continue to do whatever is necessary to protect our sovereignty and our security.
To put this in perspective, the last time enemy forces shot down an Israeli jet was in 1982, during the First Lebanon War. Indeed, the exchange of fire seen over the weekend was some of the worst in over a decade. Things first escalated into violence after an Iranian drone in Syria breached Israeli airspace. Israel downed the drone, then launched a counterattack on Syrian military targets. An Israeli F-16 was hit during an exchange of fire, but fortunately the pilot managed to fly the aircraft back into Israel and ejected before the crash. He was critically injured but is now in stable condition. The downing of the aircraft prompted a second Israeli counterattack, this time targeting Syrian anti-aircraft defenses. At this time, at least 6 Syrian troops from President Assad's regime had been killed in those strikes. The IDF has confirmed that at least 4 Iranian targets in the region were also hit in the airstrikes, and needless to say, Israel is bracing for the worst. These escalations in Syria, which may be the first true open warfare seen between Israel and Iranian forces, obviously hold massive implications for the rest of the region as well. Well, ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here to elaborate. Now, Brett, what kind of reactions are we seeing?
Well, first of all, both Iran and Syria have completely denounced Israel's counterattack. This all started when an Iranian drone entered Israeli airspace, prompting an Israeli Apache to shoot it down. But those countries are both denying that the drone even left Syria in the first place. According to them, this is just an Israeli lie or just some excuse to start a war.
Well, that's highly unlikely considering the army has already released the footage of the drone being shot down in Israeli territory,
Correct. And on top of that, I think it's a stretch to presume that Israel would even want to start a war right now at all. I mean, not only would that probably become a very bloody conflict for all parties involved, but it could easily spread to involve the rest of the region. I mean, Hezbollah soldiers in Lebanon, for example, we just saw them driving a convoy near the Israeli border, waving flags, kind of celebrating the downing of the Israeli F-16 fighter.
Well, that's sort of the response that we're seeing from the Palestinians as well. I know in Gaza there was open partying in the streets and reports of people passing around sweets in the West Bank to celebrate. Right.
Well, for an Israeli jet to go down at all, I mean, that's a very significant thing to happen. I mean, I don't think that's happened since the First Lebanon War. The United States, of course, has immediately defended Israel's right to defend itself, but keep in mind that Syria is utterly volatile right now, especially given the massive civilian casualties we've seen last week in the ongoing civil war. And we can't forget now that Russia is very strongly in the mix there, too.
Right, and the balance of power between Russia, Iran, and Syria butting heads with
Israel, that's a recipe for a very dangerous game of chicken right there. And it's kind of why the United Nations is kind of saying, hey, everyone needs to de-escalate right now because really a skirmish like this could easily topple the rest of the dominoes here. And I'm just not sure that's even something that anyone, even Iran, really wants right now.
Well, obviously, we'll be keeping a very, very close eye on where this is heading. Thanks for joining us, Brett.
Absolutely.
And now for an even deeper analysis of the clashes on Israel's northern front is former senior Air Force Commander Colonel Coby. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, What do you think the Iranian drone was able to capture, or trying to capture, and was there anything that was learned from that flight?
Still under investigation. We have the major part of the UAV, which we shot down yesterday morning. We have the wing, we have some of the computers and the communication, and we will be able to learn exactly what was his intention. It was quite a sophisticated UAV. It's a duplicate of a United States UAV QR version that fell in Iran about 6-7 years ago, and they duplicated it, and it has a lot of capabilities to take pictures.
Which is obviously why Israel was so alarmed that this, beyond just violating Israeli airspace, the drone was very powerful. Now, is, in your opinion, Iran escalating towards a conflict with Israel? What is going to happen here?
Well, what happened yesterday is one step from several steps that already has been taken in the past between Israel and the Iranian. Iran is determined to have a base, a military base in Syria. We know it from intelligence. It's not just coming to help the Syrian, it's coming to have a deeper military footage in Syria. Israel cannot accept it because we know that the first priority of Iran is not helping the Syrian, is to have another front against Israel, a military front.
So do you think that Iran was trying to get Israel to so-called throw the first punch?
The first punch has already been put a few months ago. Israel, according to foreign press, attacked several of Iranian general along the border that were trying to do some kind of military activity. According to foreign press, we already did some attacks abroad. And this is one of their moves against Israel. We don't know exactly what their real intention, but we will know it quite sure.
So if there is a conflict in the north, how do we expect the lines to be drawn here in terms of who will fight for who?
Israel needs to stand firmly on the issue that Iranian cannot have a military base in Iran. So it means that as long as Iranian will have a base and Israel will say we don't accept it, we will see some more military clashes between Israel and Iran. The only solution for this challenge is by a superpower that will come and for diplomatic issue will be able to solve it. But as long as it will happen, we will see some more events like we saw yesterday and we saw in the past.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Colonel.
Thank you, Natasha.
Outrage against the government's controversial plan to either jail or deport nearly 40,000 African asylum seekers has spread to Jerusalem, where a massive crowd of at least 1,500 people have just gathered in protest. Now, typically these demonstrations are seen here in Tel Aviv, so to see them in Jerusalem means that opposition to the plan is steadily growing. Last week, the Israeli government issued notices to 20,000 African asylum seekers, only single men in the first stage, informing them that on April 1st they must either agree to be deported to an unnamed country in Africa or be jailed indefinitely. The government has labeled this community as illegal infiltrators, but the vast majority, mostly Christians from Eritrea and Sudan, say they fled war, genocide, and conscription in a slave army for a better life here in Israel. This is why most Western countries almost unanimously accept them as refugees. But to date, Israel has approved only 11 for refugee status in the country. The UN's chief refugee agency has entered talks with Israel that would see some deportees relocated to a country deemed safe, all in exchange for Israel absorbing the rest. Rwanda and Uganda have denied a secret deal with Israel to accept these asylum seekers, although Israel has already deported thousands to Rwanda in recent years. In response to the growing outrage against the government's plan, 2 Israeli Knesset members actually just traveled to Rwanda on a fact-finding mission. Rwandan leaders, however, refused to even meet with them, noting the disturbing lack of transparency on top of countless stories of human trafficking, rape, and kidnapping that have followed deportations to Rwanda. The Israeli delegation has noted, quote, "This is why we insist that any deal that is in place to force their deportation to Rwanda should be immediately abandoned." Ties between Israel and India have been skyrocketing recently, especially after Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent trip to India last month. Now, his trip marked the first time an Israeli prime minister has ever officially visited the country, But now it looks like India is performing a bit of a balancing act because the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just visited the Palestinian president in Ramallah, the first trip of its kind in 30 years.
आपने आज मुझे बहुत आत्मीयता के साथ फिलिस्तीन के सर्वोच्च सम्मान से नवाजा है। यह पूरे भारत के लिए सम्मान का विषय है और भारत के लिए फिलिस्तीन की मित्रता और सद्भावना का प्रतीक है। इस सम्मान के लिए मैं 125 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानियों की तरफ से आपका हृदय से बहुत बहुत आभार व्यक्त करता हूं।
ILTV's Aaron Porras is here in the studio with more. So Aaron, these were some pretty chummy words in general. Yeah. What does this recent visit mean?
So, as you said, Prime Minister Modi seems to be playing a balancing act. It doesn't necessarily mean a lot. He's looking out for Indian interests, and to be fair, India has been pro-Palestinian for a very long time, including all the way back to 1947 when they voted against Israel in the partition plan, and then a few years later when Israel tried to become a member state at the United Nations, India voted against us again. And also that this is a part of a larger trip to the Gulf and to the Arab countries in general. He's visited Oman and the United Arab Emirates in this very same visit. So.
Now, what about those who worry that the Palestinians are trying to replace the United States with India in future negotiations? I know it sounds outlandish, but there are people who are saying that that's a possibility.
Sure.
And also, Modi praised the late Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, who Israel largely considers to be a terrorist. Right. So that was pretty upsetting for the Israeli government, I imagine.
So to your first point, I'd say you're right. The Palestinians are looking to India, as they have to pretty much everyone else, the EU, the UN, Russia, everyone, to replace the United States. They've made it very clear that they don't see the United States as a partner in negotiating peace any longer. And although Modi did say that he views, that he's committed to the Palestinians' cause, he didn't say anything ostensibly against Israel at the same time, nor did he make any clear inclination that he wanted to replace the United States. Now, as for his comments about Arafat, true, that might anger a lot of people, but the truth is that Arafat was not an enemy of India, and when it comes down to it, Narendra Modi is looking out for Indian interests.
All right. Yeah. Well, Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Sick of waiting on lines to report something minor to your local government municipality? Well, an Israeli company has just created an app that is on a mission to make sure your voice is actually heard without wasting time. Joining us in the studio is Avi Dorani, the founder and CEO of CT Connect. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, so this is very interesting. Tell us about your platform. What does it do?
CT Connect is a municipality platform, a bidirectional that connects the citizen with the city hall. The citizen install an application and start to report on issues directly from the smartphone to the city hall.
Okay, so can you give us an example of something that you might complain about?
For example, if I see a sign near my house that is broken, I can take a picture and submit it to the city hall and directly direct to the relevant department in the city hall, and they fix the issue, and I have updates all the time using my smartphone.
Interesting. So they'll let you know if the sign is fixed, essentially.
Yes.
You'll get an update on that. Yes. Very cool. So how did you guys come up with this idea? I can think of a couple of scenarios that we've all been in that might have made you want to create a platform like this.
When I've been in travel in New York, I saw that everything is fixes very fast. So it came up to do something like this in Israel.
We're a first world country. Why can't we do this, right?
Yes, why can we do this? So we developed a platform that can make it very easy to report and to communicate and fix these issues.
So can you tell us about some of the benefits? First of all, is a platform being used yet?
Yes, it's used by 66 local authorities from the north, from the Golan until Dimona in the south. We have more than 350,000 users that using this platform. And the benefit is very fast and simple. You just install the application, submit, and that's it. It's very fast, very usability.
So no more bureaucratic lines and waiting and wasting time on the phone. All right, very cool. I mean, I think I'm going to have to download this on my phone myself because I think I have some things I'd like to say to my local municipality. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
All right. It looks like you may want to consider pursuing an education in the Holy Land because Israel has just received some very impressive new rankings. The OECD has just ranked Israel as the third most educated country, and as per usual, Israeli universities are taking center stage in Asia.
Tel Aviv University, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and the Technion Israel Institute of Technology are just 3 of the Israeli universities that have been ranked in the top 200 institutions in Asia. The Times Higher Education University rankings honored 5 Israeli universities for 2018, since, surprise, surprise, Israel is considered part of Asia. The Times of Higher Education rankings are considered the most prestigious in the world, which is pretty exciting. This news comes just after the Economic Cooperation and Development ranked Israel as the 3rd most educated country in terms of adult education. The report has found that nearly 50% of Israelis between the age of 25 and 64 have completed some sort of adult education.
All right, some of the worst, if not lethal, chronic inflammatory diseases currently have no cure. And despite groundbreaking medical work, even just controlling them is still out of reach. That may not be for long, though, because an Israeli developer says he may have a game-changing new treatment, one that targets MS, Alzheimer's, Crohn's, and more with just one drug.
Not all chronic inflammatory diseases are fatal, but they do have something in common. They're primarily linked to a particular protein in the body which triggers inflammation and even degeneration in the forms of diseases like Alzheimer's and Crohn's. Multiple sclerosis, or MS, is perhaps the most widespread and damaging of these diseases, affecting millions worldwide. But Israeli professor David Naor may be just verging on the medical breakthrough we've all been waiting for. His incredible new treatment, known as 5-mer, targets this protein with a synthetic peptide, and so far the results have been purely astonishing. Lab treatments on mice have seen dramatic reversals in symptoms tied to Alzheimer's, MS, and rheumatoid arthritis. And though the actual cure may still be a work in progress, Professor Naor believes that once the inflammation can be controlled, a cure isn't far behind. He's developed 5-mer to tackle all of these diseases, even proving effective in cases where other treatments prove totally ineffective. We're still at least 2 years and a few $1 million away from seeing human trials, but given the results, it can't come soon enough.
The 2018 Winter Olympics have officially started, and even though Israel has hot weather pretty much all year round, the country has sent a 10-athlete delegation to the Games in South Korea, the biggest delegation in history. Over the next 2 weeks, Israeli athletes will be competing in alpine skiing, figure skating, short track speed skating, and skeleton. The majority of the Israeli delegation actually wasn't born in Israel, but the important thing is that they've all obtained citizenship and are proud to represent the country. Israel actually hasn't ever won a medal in the Winter Olympics, but since this year's delegation is larger than ever before, there's lots of hope that a medal is on the horizon. The favorite to break the streak is men's figure skater Alexei Baichenko. He won a silver medal in the 2016 European Figure Skating Championship and is expected to compete later this week. There's nothing worse than realizing you've trekked all the way to the supermarket to find out that they've run out of your favorite snack. Well, one Israeli company has developed a technology to help businesses make sure that they never let you down. And joining us in the studio is the CEO and co-founder of Wise Shelf. Hello.
Hi.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your platform. What have you created?
So we have a real-time inventory management solution for retailer that is able to measure the inventory in real time. The idea is that we are able to, we put an add-on plate full of light sensors that measures the amount of light from the ambient light in the store. So it's
Okay, so when a shelf is emptying out, the light changes, right?
Right, when the shelf is empty, so there is more light, and when the shelf is
so
full...
when my Pringles are disappearing, the store now knows to restock them, right? That's the idea.
Right.
Interesting. So is this a technology that you can apply to any retail store, or is it specifically garnered for supermarkets? What's the idea?
So currently we are focused on supermarkets and pharmacy stores. And of course, because they are very competitive area now with all the Amazon Go stuff going on.
Now, what's interesting is, does this also provide, statistics as to which products are clearing out faster than others, so the stores know what they should be buying more of, essentially, or is it just real life or real-time data?
Of course, it has statistics. We know when is the product is on the shelf, when it's out of the shelf, where is the exact location on the shelf, if it's in the front or in the back. Okay. You come to a shampoo category and you have 200 kinds of shampoo, and you need to find your favorite shampoo. And if it's only in the back of the shelf, you might miss it.
Interesting.
So we are able to measure. Okay,
and so I think the next aspect that you have to add to this platform would just be letting us know when you've run out of our favorite stuff, right? So is that on the platform yet, or down the line maybe?
So this is when we give the information to the retailer, he can forward it to you by the application, by the
So when you're running, looking for your Pringles, you'll know if they're going to be there or not. All right, interesting. So is this platform already in the United States? Is it just here in Israel? Where is it implemented?
We are all around. We are in Israel, in Russia, in Denmark, in Germany, in France, UK, and of course in the US.
Great. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we've all heard the rumors that any couple who meets on their birthright trip to Israel is eligible for a free honeymoon to the Holy Land. Sorry guys, that might be total hearsay, but get this. There is a way for newly married couples to nab an inexpensive lover's trip to Israel. And ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here with all of the details. Take it away, Emmanuel.
Thanks, Natasha. Well, like you said, the whole birthright thing may just be a rumor for now, but there is this organization called Honeymoon Israel that's making that dream a slightly less expensive reality. Now, typically a honeymoon trip here from the U.S. would cost something around like $10,000.
That's a lot of money.
It is. But if you book through Honeymoon Israel, that cost comes down to $2,200 per couple. Not too bad. And all you need in order to apply is to prove that at least just one partner is Jewish, and that's the deal.
Well, that is obviously an insane difference, but how is it even possible cost-wise? It sounds almost too good to be true.
Right. Well, it is true. The organization is partnered with the 1-8 Foundation. They're an organization based in Boston that helped make this possible, so that plus another 15 local and national sponsors help bring the cost all the way back down.
All right, so I know many couples who really stress themselves out trying to figure out an affordable honeymoon, which usually comes after the high cost of a wedding in the first place.
Exactly.
And that stuff is only getting more and more expensive lately. So I know this is going to make so many couples' dreams come true. How does it work? If you book through this organization, is there a preset itinerary, or can you just make your own? How does it work?
Right. Well, there's typically, they have the itinerary that covers all the major tourist spots you'd want to hit, you know, like the Dead Sea, Masada, the Western Wall, along with some more unique experiences just for newlyweds, like heading over to the Pelter Winery in the Golan Heights and touring some art studios. Each trip is actually includes 2 Shabbat experiences, one in Jerusalem for a more religious one, and then a more modern secular Shabbat in Tel Aviv. But the bad news is there is a long waiting list.
That's not surprising.
Right.
No, of course there is.
Exactly. Now, it is up and running in 16 U.S. cities right now, but you'll want to register fast. They've already done their first 50 destination Israeli honeymoons, so I definitely would check this out if you're looking for an awesome getaway.
I know. If I didn't live here, I'd want a honeymoon here in Israel as well. So check it out, guys. All right. Thanks, Emmanuel.
Thank you.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Israel is gunning for the gold as we speak in the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea, which means right now the world is abuzz with Olympiada, or the Olympics. Dating all the way back to the year 776 BC, the very first Olympiada, or Olympics, featured only a few sports like boxing and wrestling. Fast forward a couple thousand years, and the modern-day Olympiada features dozens of events. In this winter's Olympiada, for example, you'll see Israelis skating and sledding for Olympiada glory. But hey, if they don't nab a medal this year, there's always table tennis and swimming at the Olympiada for the Summer Games in 2 years. Remember, a gold medal in curling is still a gold medal, guys. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Though the winter heat wave is ongoing, you can expect a drop in temperatures and cloudy skies both tonight and tomorrow, maybe even a chance of rain. The low tonight should be about 57 or 14 degrees Celsius, and the high tomorrow will be around 65 or 18 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.52 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.